Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Lincoln Mali podcast. Tonight I have the absolute privilege of interviewing an exceptional leader. Somebody I look up to, somebody who's my role model. Somebody who's achieved so much in her life, both in the public sector, in the private sector, and in her own personal life. I bring to you today a trailblazer, both locally and overseas. My guest is Dr. Lulu Gwagwa. Sis Lulu, thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy that you could join us.
It's a pleasure, Lincoln. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You know, Sis Lulu, having spanned the entire universe of leadership, public sector, private sector, NGOs, South Africa and abroad, what's your sense of the very essence and definition of leadership from your experience?
It's an interesting question because, leadership, as you know, has been defined in so many ways, academically and otherwise. But for me, as you say, having traversed all of these years, I've come to conclude that leadership is that thing that when you see somebody who's a leader, it is somebody who is charged by inspiring others to be more.
It's not their role.
No, it's not their role. It's something
not their
that no. It's something that comes from inside, that they get goosebumps by inspiring others to act and to see themselves being more and to see themselves achieving dreams that are beyond their wildest dreams. I think for me that's what leadership is. And if you think about a whole lot of leaders that are out there in society, obviously being a South African, Mandela becomes that. If you think about at the essence, here is somebody who inspired a whole nation to be more. We are now living our wildest dream, which is beyond apartheid. That's what it is. Some people that stretch people to kind of be something that they'd never dreamt that they would be. I think that's what, for me, in essence,
and this ability of taking a group of people, a nation, a company, an organization from where they are to somewhere else, and you journey with them. That's the essence of what
That's the essence. So it's not something, you are not telling people what to do. You're basically bringing what's already there in people. That's why I'm saying people to be more and start to see things that they've kind of, in their wildest dreams, kind of vaguely thought they're possible, but actually it's in them. So people start to bring the best out of themselves. I think that's what leadership is.
If we delve back to your history, matriculating in the Eastern Cape, going to the University of Fort Hare to do your BA, going to the University of KZN to do town planning. In those times, can you take us through those times? What was going through Dr. Lulu at that time? What were those formative years like for you?
It's very interesting. Firstly, I call it University of Natal because when I was there, it was University of Natal. So mine is Natal, not KwaZulu-Natal. And I would say, Lincoln, interestingly, I would say those were the years of innocence. Probably naivety. I grew up in rural areas, so my life was around that village where I grew up, and going to the Dr. Brooks in town if you were sick. So you were it was a privilege to be sick because then you went to town with Dr. Brooks. And so that's what we did. And then you went and visited grandmother, was a domestic worker in Durban. So that was the sum total. I could almost trace my roots, nothing outside there. So that's what defined it. So I think unlike people like you who grew up in townships very early on, were exposed to apartheid and all of that. And I'll probably come back to that because it's all about exposure. So we were not exposed to any other world other than the one that we led in. So didn't even know that actually there were white people somewhere living better than we are. So I would say that if I look at how I grew up, Mzimkhulu, when, as you say, matriculated, Flagstaff, Mfundisweni, that's just like 2 hours away. So that's why I was saying innocence, naivety. When I think about it now in terms of what life was, it's only when I got to Fort Hare I was like, oh, hang on, there's something else going on here. So when I walked into Fort Hare, didn't know anything about politics because I'd never been exposed. So it's only when I got to Fort Hare that I started, and it so happened that my route into politics was like very quickly up because I arrived in 1976 at Fort Hare. So you had no chance of not knowing what's going on because it was 76. And so you were running around being beaten up by the police, university closes, you only write exams the following year in January. So it was very quick. It was almost like a very steep learning curve for me. So that's how I would define my life in those early formative years. So my life revolved around education because my family was about education. And my father was an educator, was a school principal at the time.
A young person today who is in a village or in a township, who only sees the world as being very small, what is it that you could tell them that made you to get to where you are from those backgrounds? Because I think sometimes people feel trapped by their circumstances. Why were you able to break out from those circumstances and walk the journey you have when you had a similar background to what maybe they may be battling with today?
I guess for me, Lincoln, I will always say education is a leveler, because I think it's education that took me out of Ekrumuk to even Mfundisweni. It was education that took me from Mfundisweni to Fort Hare, from Fort Hare to University of Natal, to LSE in London. It was all education that really opened my eyes. So I think this issue of education is key, but remember that for me now, retrospectively, education is beyond just the book. It is education in its broadest sense, learning. Wherever there's an opportunity to learn. So I think that's the big thing. The second thing which I've come to also know now is that it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish that matters. So where you are now does not necessarily define where you are going to be. So don't look at yourself as where you are, which is where you start. Look at where you want to be and cast your eyes to that and prepare yourself for that. Because one of the things also that when I look back at my life and also people around me that I know, it's being prepared wherever you are, whatever the circumstances, do the best that you can. Because when opportunities arise, they're gonna take the best prepared at the time. Because how I ended up at University of Natal doing town planning, which I didn't even know what it was, is because I happened to be the best in my geography class at the time. So when University of Natal came, recruited students to do town planning, then they did check in the class of geography because that's where they were recruiting. I happened to have done my best then, and that's how I got that scholarship. And that's how I ended up being the first black town planner in this country. It was about do the best that you can, wherever you are. If you are sweeping, be the best sweeper. If you are doing photography, be the best. Take yourself seriously wherever you are. So that's what I would say.
During this time, you spoke about education in its broader sense. Who were the people who were the most profound influence on you as you grow up?
I will say that there are three people who really shaped my life in different ways, and they all happen to come from my family. It's my paternal grandmother, it's my father, and it's my sister, who in English would be my cousin. But you and I will know, that's my sister, or Sister. So those are the three people who really defined my life. Even today, these are the people that still loom big in my life. Whenever I'm doing something, I always almost think, what would have my father said about this? Especially when I'm facing a moral dilemma. I always picture my father saying, which is what he used to say, if you will run, then you know you shouldn't be doing that. So whatever you're doing, if you know if I appeared you wouldn't run, then that's the thing you should be doing. But if you'd run, then you shouldn't be doing that. So when I'm facing that moral dilemma, I always say, would I run if my father appeared and have taken this decision? So that's why I'm saying he still looms very large in my life even today.
So these anchors in our lives, it seems to me, are fundamental for making sure we stay on the straight and narrow. Why do you think others either ignore those pillars or anchors? Is it the success or the earthly reward? What is it that makes people know what's wrong and continue to do it?
Very interesting question. I actually don't know. I don't know, because I want to believe that all of us, because I think when I think about my father in particular, because I think he's the single most important person in my life, be it he died 40 years ago, it's values. I think it's being steeped in values, and I think that, and I don't want to think that there's anybody who grew up with none of those. Even if you grew up in a children's home and you didn't have parents, I think there are people there who drum values. I think it's choice. It really is choice in the end. Because to say the environment has done this, or so and so is influence, the word influence is choices, because there are all of these things in front of us. You choose what to do, and out of that you and when you've made that choice, so the things that you're going to see and the things that your eyes are looking for are things that are really going to be supporting you around those choices that you've made. And so I think it's choice, because it's very important that we take personal responsibility for where we've ended and for the things that we do. We can't keep shifting, blaming others. No.
But we're not taking responsibility.
Personal responsibility of the choices that we've made. So it's choice.
Talking about choices, I mean, you very early on, as far back as 1985, got to be involved in the NGO sector to help others who were less fortunate. I mean, your trajectory was clear. First town planner, your career trajectory is clear. You're going places. But why get involved in NGOs and helping homeless and others? What's that thing that made you want to have this? And this has been, a thread throughout your career. What drove that?
It's very interesting, because at one level, me ending up at the Built Environment Support Group at the University of Natal, which is the first NGO I worked for, I was running away from the police, the security police in the Transkei, because when I finished town planning, I went to work for the Transkei government in Mthatha, because as a was an African person, that's the only place where I could work as a town planner. So I went there and I got myself in trouble there. And the person that I was associated with, who I'm still associated with even today, got himself in trouble, ended up leaving the country. And as a consequence of those, which were also choices, I guess, I ended up, my stay in the Transkei was untenable. And so I ended up leaving after having been arrested and so left. So when I got there, the place that could, in a sense, take somebody who's made those choices that I had made, those political choices, was the Built Environment Support Group. So it was at University of Natal, and it was working in the squatter settlement around housing policy issues. And also, in a sense, although it is an NGO that was dealing with the housing struggles, so again, it was directing me in that same route. So that's how I ended up at the Built Environment Support Group in the NGO sector. So it was still planning, but it was planning from a different perspective, working in a sense with communities around planning issues, which were housing issues.
There is also this thing about, I don't know whether to call us former activists or activists, where activism was a calling, right? And defined where we stood from a values point of view and where we shall be. It was never about what we shall access and what we shall get. Where do you think we kind of lost that piece? Because when you talk about your activism, it's just matter of fact, it's part of your life. It's not a badge of honor, it's not a glory-seeking thing. It's just what we needed to do. But those values have carried on in our lives. We don't have to carry a badge. How do you explain that versus sometimes your activists that kind of want to show everybody they're an activist, they belong to a party and have some position?
I mean, I think I'll come at it almost as a cynic in this instance, or what, I don't know. But remember what I said earlier on when we started about leadership, is somebody who's driven by seeing others being more. So I think when you look back and you look at the environment that we are living in, you can see people undriven by other people being more.
Yes.
They are driven by themselves getting more, not being more.
Getting more.
Not being more, but getting more. And those are not leaders. I mean, these are people who are hustling. These are hustlers, hustling for themselves to get more. And those are not leaders. And you can see in all South African political parties, because you see there are hustlers in all of these political parties. There are leaders and there are hustlers. And you can do the analysis for yourself to say who are the leaders. Sadly, there are few far in between, and as opposed to the hustlers. And for me, that's what's happened. So what this environment has done in Xhosa, in a sense, it's chaff from real maize, because what the environment has done is to sift who, because we thought all of these people were leaders, but actually the environment has now made it very clear who are leaders, who are not leaders, who are hustlers. So I think that's what has happened. Nothing has changed. The environment has just made it bare, put a spotlight on who are hustlers. And then as a society, we have a choice. If we want to be led by hustlers, so hustlers will lead us. And I think that's what's going on, at least in my mind.
And for you, whether you are in the private sector, public sector, NGO, civil society, those same values hold. Because if you're hustling, you'll hustle everywhere with the same consequences of results. But if you are leading, you lead anywhere with the right noble results, I would imagine.
Yeah, because, I mean, as I said earlier on, Lincoln, for me, I've added to my father's because my father, were two things about my father. It was integrity and education. Those were the two things. I would say giving is the third. When I look at my father, those three things, it was about education, giving, and integrity. That's all. So what I've come to do now, to add to my father being this person who's a guiding light for me, is my children. Because all I say, if what I do would be headlines in the Sunday Times, would this embarrass my children? If it would embarrass my children, I'm out of there. But if it was there and it wouldn't embarrass my children, I'm there. So there's my father, there's my children right now, who really guide me. Be it I'm chairing a board, be it I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I'm running around my own business, I'm doing whatever. In my social life, in the evening, I'm out socializing with people, is what I'm doing. If my children got to know what I'm doing this evening, where there's nobody else except me and my friends and my colleagues, would my children be embarrassed? If I think my children were embarrassed, I'm out of there. So it's very simple.
I'm sure there are people who are not familiar with some of the cultural norms we use. Normally people would say Dr. Lulu, but I always call you Sister Lulu, which is like my elder sister. so when I say Sister Lulu, you know it's Dr. Lulu, but for me, what comes natural is Sister Lulu. Sister Lulu, I'd like to take you back to the 80s and the early 90s, a time of strife, turmoil, but also rich with possibilities. Maybe just take us through your journey in those 80s and the influences in those 80s into the 90s.
Yeah. Okay, I think the 80s were fast-paced, certainly, in South Africa. There was a lot going on there. I think it's in the 80s that I'm trying to think quickly, finished 40, 78, 79, so that's University of Natal, into starting in the place of work, as I said, University in Transkei, and then moved to Durban. I think what was going on in South Africa at the time, you almost had no choice, but you had choice in some ways, because there was just so much going on. So I think particularly if you were a student and university student and at that, because the struggles particularly at that time, as you know, started with young students, as in 76, and then got into universities. So I was lucky in a sense. I mean, I do count myself lucky in so many ways, where I just happened to be in the right place. Because 76, I happened to be at Forte. Forte was at the center of things during those years. And then from Forte, I went to University of Natal. And because I was black, I then stayed, although I was not a medical student, I stayed with medical students.
Okay.
Because us 20 odd who were at Howard College at the time, who were blacks, it was town planning, engineering, architecture. We couldn't stay at the res with white students, so we stayed with the black students who were medical students. And again, that's where a lot was happening, a res at the time, as it was called politically. So I think that really, I count that period as a period that really shaped me as an activist. I got to know people that really knew a lot about politics, which I knew nothing about. And I got into that, and I think it really opened my mind. And I think I'm where I am today to a large extent because of that journey that got me to Forte, to University of Natal, and ultimately got me to LSE. So both in terms of growing as a person, just socially, knowing that the people come from PE, people come from Vereeniging and wherever, and knowing that there's a difference between that and that.
Yes.
Coming to see, oh, okay, there's colors, there's Indians, there's white people, oh, we all live differently in this country. So all of that, but also academically.
Yes.
Because I think one thing, as you know, about being an activist, it also, we read a lot.
Yes.
Things that had absolutely nothing to do with what we were studying.
Yes. Yes.
And I think this culture of reading beyond what I'm doing, I think it came out of that time, and I've continued to read quite widely because of that. So there was a lot of learning, but also just resilience.
Yes.
How to survive in an environment that's harsh, and still find an opportunity to stay the course, both as an activist but also academically.
Yes.
How do you, in an environment like that, still also find an opportunity to cut through and prepare yourself for the future? So there was a lot going on during that period.
Yes.
And I think for me, I just grew in so many ways.
There's this thing that I think young activists today have to grapple with, which when we were younger and we were activists, we also grappled with, which is you have to be the embodiment of the organization in many ways. So you can't be seen behaving badly. You can't be seen failing.
Yes.
You can't be seen not doing well, because the expectations by those that led us was,
you must
as
do
an
it all.
activist, you have to do well.
You have to do well. And you must also sustain relationships.
Yes.
As well. In between all of this, you also have to sustain relationships. So I think that this thing of having all of these balls in the air and doing all of that and still pitching up at home, be a child, because comes a VEC when I was at university, even when I was working.
Yes.
When this Mzimkulu Ekaya, I mean, that's all you are.
Yes.
You are a child who has to go and fetch water from the river and. So we learned how to juggle and how to do all of these things during that period, I think.
The decision to leave the country to go and further your studies abroad is a big decision. Tell me all of the thinking behind the decision and the impact of your time at university overseas has had on your life and your professional career.
Again, politics kind of pushed me to study abroad because I was in trouble here again. And it so happened, as I said, the person that I was associated with had left the country.
Yes.
And so the discussion was, maybe don't leave the country in the same way as he did. Go legally outside the country. And so the late Chief Justice Ubud Pius, again, as you say, Ubud Pius as we call him.
Yes.
So Ubud Pius Langa quickly organized this scholarship for me. And so that's how I ended up at LSE. It was, again, be prepared, do the best that you can where you are. So I had studied, I had done well, I was working NGO, and I was doing the best that I can there. So when I had to now apply for the scholarship at LSE, I could enter LSE on merit in terms of what I'd done. Because had I not done all of these things properly, as you said earlier on, I would not have been able to. So the scholarship wasn't wenzelelelo because you were an activist. The scholarship was there, but you needed to show the grades and the work to get the scholarship. So it made it easy for Pius to get me for me to qualify at LSE, because as you know, LSE is the Ivy League in the UK.
Yes.
So that's how I ended up at LSE. It was a very difficult decision, particularly my dad had passed on long ago and I'm the firstborn at home. And so for my mom, because I had started working and there were still the others who were still studying at home. And so in a sense, since my dad died when I was 23, I was both big sister, I was husband, and I was father, and all of these things in between all of these other things. So the decision to leave was not an easy one at all but it had to be done for the bigger good. Again, during that time, as you know, you thought about yourself, you thought about your family, you thought about the bigger good. So all of these things had to come together. And you didn't just think about me, myself, and I, and my children, and that's all I'm thinking about, which sadly today, this is where we are. So we had to think about all of that. And that's how I ended up at LSE. And I will tell you one thing. My time in the UK, particularly at LSE, it changed the trajectory of my life completely. And I think there's one thing about the being at LSE for me. It was about, when you're in South Africa, you were studying, you were black, you were a black woman or African woman at the time. And so that's what was expected of you. When you are in those universities at the time, it was, you are Lulu Gwagwa, that's all you are. And therefore show up as Lulu Gwagwa and not as some black woman or who's nobody cares. You are just here. And I think what that did, it gave me the opportunity to really rise and really show myself, in terms of what I'm capable of doing. So I think that's what LSE did, is to compete globally. I think that was the opportunity in that class to compete globally. But it also gave me an opportunity to look at South Africa from outside. That distance, to be able to see, this is nonsense. What would this? No. This, yes. This, no. This, I won't be part of that. This, I will be part. So it gave me, which I think for a lot of people, they didn't get that opportunity to actually, to reflect, to sit outside and reflect. And also just be in the midst of people who've been through this from other African countries and also from South America, who've been through Sandinista at the time, who've been through all of that. You talk to people and you see some of the potential pitfalls when we get to post-94. And I think that's what LSE did. It really gave me my confidence back. Just as a person intellectually, and just as a person as well, because I was there on my own. There was no family, there was no friends, there was no one. It was me and the South African students or South African broader anti-apartheid movement out there that one participated in as a student. So it really shaped me. I think career-wise, that opportunity of being at LSE really shaped me and prepared me for the things that I've come to do.
We spoke about education and its importance. South Africa was playing at a bigger stage in many respects during the anti-apartheid movement. Also, at the dawn of our democracy, the same thing happened. Do you have a sense that many young people see the opportunity to go and compete globally, to study at the best schools? I mean, you came from a small village and ended up at the London School of Economics. It is possible for any one of us, if we apply ourselves, to compete at that level. Do you see our young people seeing those opportunities? Because we have to have opened up more opportunities for some of our kids to go and compete at the best levels.
I don't think so, Lincoln. I think pre-94, during those times, particularly as black people, the field to a large extent was level. So it didn't matter because as parents, other than being a teacher, few doctors and lawyers here and there, it was very level. And I think the struggle and the participation in struggle leveled all of us in that way. And so when an opportunity arose, it wasn't for Lincoln's child and Lulu's child, and so it was for the children. And so even the leaders at the time would broaden that. And I think what the Spirit has done now is that opportunities are still there. But I think the issue of class amongst us as Black people has now come in. So it is going to be your children. It is going to be my daughter who, as we speak, is studying abroad. So I think that's what has happened, is that it's now, opportunities are there, but I don't think we're doing enough to actually spread the sunlight.
Yes. To
out
find
there.
those gems.
Those gems
who
out there.
have got all the potential in the
Exactly.
world, but may not have come from the right class.
Exactly.
You know, I still remember in the old Transkei, there used to be a bursary called Umtem.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we went to universities with people abasuke lalini, but bafumene Umtem.
Umtem.
The point here is not only restricted to those who can afford, but those who've got the potential who can
Yes.
be given scholarships.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, I think, I mean, I'd never thought about it. I'm thinking about it as you raise it now to say, you know what, I actually think there's a lot more that us who are privileged
Yes.
should be doing to really spread that sunlight and that sunshine out there. At the moment, it's if you think about who are the kids who are studying abroad, it's our kids
Yes.
that are studying abroad.
Yes. You then come back to South Africa.
Yes.
And give me a sense when you came back, you know, what were you coming back to? And what did you find? And what did you get yourself involved in?
Oh man, when I came back,
Yeah.
I was probably in the beginnings or maybe 2 years into my PhD when I came back. And I came back to do my field work. And it was like, PhD, you can wait. You really can wait.
Yes.
Not when things are
happening.
when things are happening
It's
like this.
happening.
So I was very clear when I left LSE. I mean UCL, because I had moved from LSE to University College
California.
London, and I said to myself, I'm coming for, but now I knew I'm not coming back for any field work.
Yes.
There's a lot going on here. So it was about the thing that we never dreamt would happen had happened. And so here's an opportunity for us to really roll up our sleeves in a different way. So there are no stones to be thrown now, which we did seriously. Now it is us to roll up and build. And for me, it was very clear. As to exactly where and how I was going to do that, I didn't know. But I knew that I'm coming back to really find something to do. So I came back, and the first opportunity I got was to be at the University of Natal to teach. And that was very interesting. To go back to the same department where I was the first Black a student, town planner, and I got to this department which still didn't have any Blacks. It never had any Blacks. And I happened to be the first Black lecturer in the planning school there. And so that's where I got in. But then used that as a platform to do a whole lot of other things. Got back to those housing struggles through the IDT. But really got involved in what was going on, the conversations. CODESA was starting.
Yes.
And yet again, got an opportunity of a lifetime to serve in the commission that did the provincial boundaries.
Yes.
So the CODESA was to put 12 people to be commissioners, and each political party was to field people, and the ANC obviously had to field people. And I got that call from Zola Square, and my daughter was 10 days old, and I was in Devon, and I was like, bloody hell, 10 days old, what am I going to do? But cut long story short, Zola said, we will pay for you to fly with your daughter, 2 meetings, to whatever. And so, as they say, the rest is history, because I participated at CODESA to do the provincial boundaries as you know them today. When I look at these provinces, I say, this is me.
Yes.
So you can ask me the questions, you can blame me for whatever is there. So that was a huge opportunity. Who was that guy? When the Freedom Front went in there, I was inside there with my baby.
Yes.
And I got hidden under the table. Terre Blanche.
Yes.
That particular day we were having a meeting, we were there. But that was all history. So for me, That's what that period is. It was about building. And getting there, ended up here in the National Department of Public Works as a DDG.
Yes.
So it was all about building. But the key thing, though, Lincoln, at the time, we were all looking at the same thing. The end goal. Thing that we had fought for. And we were like focused on this is what needs to be done. And there were distractions, you know. And so, but it was seriously exciting times, like seriously exciting times.
You know, I've spoken a lot about working under Madiba's government. I mean, we were all new.
Yes.
What is it about that group of leaders who were all new in government? They were new in a democracy, but they found a way to make the thing work. You know, in those early years, what is it about them? You know, the Dalaomas, the Squeers, you know, the Thabo Mbekis, the Mandela, that golden age of our democracy.
It was about making South Africa a better place. That was the thing. There was nothing else about making South Africa a better place. That's all for all who live in it. That was it. Remember, I said leadership is about, you know, inspiring people to be more. And I think that's what it was about. South Africa, you are more than what apartheid has made you to be. You are more than that. And that's what those leaders were about. It was about making us to be more. And they rallied the rest of us to do that. And everyone was like, I was in government as a DDG. I woke up every day. It was bloody hard. But I woke up every day with a very clear mind that it's about, there's nothing else for me to do here except to make South Africa a better place. We work 24/7.
I remember.
24/7. But it was about making South Africa a better place. And I think that was the focus. And I worked, I mean, as you say, when President Mandela was president, I worked under Thabo Mbeki. I think for me, working under President Mbeki, I know a lot of people say working under President Mandela. I think because he wasn't a very, present is not the right word in terms of the driving of government, because his eyes were like outside. So if you were working in there, you didn't really feel him in that way. But President Mbeki was a very present leader and driving the agenda of government, driving the agenda of the continent. So he was very there. And I think for me, the biggest ultimate privilege was working under President Mbeki. Because of just the clarity of mind, the clarity of focus, and also not going to... He was about being more. So if you're going to bring something that is not about more, you are going back. You are going back. I remember presenting in cabinet, and we're all like, if you were going to be presenting in cabinet and you didn't have your story, you were going to be sent back.
The standard was here.
The standard was here.
Drop for you.
No, it wasn't going to be. So I think what that did, it lifted all of us to be there. And I think you walked with pride. And I speak to people who were ambassadors of South Africa outside the world then, and they will tell you, as South Africans, we walked with pride out there, because everybody would be saying, South Africa, what's your view? I mean, today nobody cares. What's our view? Nobody's going to ask us. They're going to ask Rwanda, they're going to ask Kenya. They're not going to ask South Africa and the continent about what's your view.
And it's interesting that those of us who made the transition from the public sector to the private sector didn't find the transition hard.
No,
because
of
where
we
came from, the level, the professionalism,
Yes.
the focus on excellence was always there. The hard work, the diligence was always there.
It was there.
You know, so you actually found that the private sector, there were things you would question them like, but guys.
Said by guys. I mean, is that all you do?
Exactly.
And because I think part of it also, I think as people who were leaders in the public sector at the time, if you engage with President Mbeki, I mean, actually, because I was working for the RDT and I did a lot on rural development. So when he did these imbizos, we would be driving those imbizos. So when you were preparing briefing notes for him, you needed to talk about the universe of South Africa. Yes. So if you are going to an imbizo in Bochabelo, you can't just talk about Chobe. You got to talk about Free State. You got to talk about South Africa. You got to talk about the continent when you do those briefing notes. So this ability to move from the detail to the broad, and from the broad back to detail. Because as a leader, that's something that we have to be able to do, is to be able to move. If you are going to inspire people, you must be able to bring the big vision, but you must also be able to support people in their specific path, which is quite specific. And I think that's what President Mbeki is. He will question you on the detailed stats about a very specific place. Before you know, he'll be talking about Nepal. And you're thinking, when did we get there? And so and then you were like schooled to do that. And therefore, when you go to the private sector, and these guys were only talking about the detail, about that balance sheet, and you like, but the balance sheet happens in a context, guys. What's the context? These guys are not interested in the context. But some of us who came from struggle, who came from the public sector, who are in the private sector, even today, I think we've got that ability to think, to see the specific company that I'm working for within the context of society. So when we start talk about ESG, it's very easy for us because we know the environment, the social and the governance, all of it together. For us, that's a normal thing to be able to say this company exists in society. There's not a company and society. There's a company in society. We understand that almost it's second nature. For us who came from the public sector of those years. I don't know about today.
So Lulu, one of your passions is developing young people and young girls. In 2016, you founded the Traversing Liminality. Give us a sense of what is that about? I mean, I've seen some of the programs and the amazing people you invite to these programs with young people. Why is this important, and why have you persisted with this?
It's very simple. I was a young girl at some point, and I am raising a young woman now who's turning 30 this year. And I have realized, and particularly when I looked at my daughter, who was obviously growing up in front of me, and my nieces, that, you know what, for the black woman, things haven't really changed. They're still going through the same struggles, the same lack of confidence, the same sense of self-worth that's not there, the same imposter syndromes that I suffered from as very intelligent, highly qualified black woman who got invited into all of these things. I always second guess myself. Even sitting in that commission on boundaries that I was talking about, I walked in there, I saw all of these people, I was like, why am I here? But clearly the NC takes themselves seriously. That's why they brought me here, so I better just shape up. And I listened to my daughter, highly intelligent young woman who's really done well with her academics, but I listened to how she talks about herself. And I'm like, it can't repeat itself like this. So I need to do a little bit. Thabo Mbeki used to say, he talks about that all of us, wherever we are, we need to do the little actions that together they will build into something. So I said, okay, in my little corner, let me see what I can do. So for me, it comes out of really women are the anchor of families, anchor of society. I mean, it's a given.
Yes.
We know this. And I mean, there's a saying which is real: you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation, because of just how women view themselves and their role in society. And therefore, if we bring up confident women, young women who have a clear sense of self, who are very clear to put out their voice out there, because there's a lot of things that are happening and women aren't putting their voice there to say, hang on, have you thought about it this way? Hang on, that's not what we decided we should do. So we've got a lot of women out in all of these things, political parties, but we're not hearing voice. There are these women organizations, political party organizations, but there's no voice, which is a woman voice. It's still the same voice, but coming through women. And it's all about a sense of self-worth and a sense of that. So for me, that's what it's about. So Traversing Liminality is not about, it's not a mentoring program. Because mentorship is about somebody who's done something, who's teaching you how to do it. So Traversing Liminality is about how to be, not how to do. Because these young women have done. They're qualified doctors, they're qualified, they're young business people, they're writers. Some of them are unemployed at the moment. These are the young women that I see through my program, but they're struggling with being. So that how am I being as a businesswoman starting how am I being in this relationship that I'm going into? How am I being as a mother? How am I being when I'm in front of my in-laws? How am I being when I'm presenting in that boardroom? So it's about being. So that's what we're working on, is the being. And the thing about the being is that it's there. It's not something that you are fetching. It's not, it's there. It's about supporting the person to bring out their being, which is their essence, which is why they are here in the world in the first place.
So that they bring themselves.
So I always say to them, it's about how to show up for yourself.
Bring yourself.
Bringing yourself, show up for yourself.
Not a replica of somebody or what is expected of you.
Just bring yourself forward. And that's in essence, because when I reflect on myself, those years, and I think of where I am, and I'm like, damn, had I had an opportunity like this, I don't know where I would have been today. If I had had that opportunity of just showing up as I am without second guessing myself. So in a sense, that's not even in a sense, that's what I'm doing, working with young women across the continent, 1-year program to really and it's anchored around coaching. And there's a lot of women, qualified coaches who've rallied around this, who also want to give back and who are giving back to society through supporting these young women to be, remember where we started, to bring the best out of them, for them, so that they can really follow their dreams. And so that's, in a sense, that's all we are doing in Traversing Liminality.
When you look at your career, there is another part that is fascinating and inspiring, which is building a business from the ground up. Tell us about the dream of Lereko Investments.
Hey, Lincoln, is a very interesting one, because other people say that, oh, I plan things and I've got a 5-year plan, I've got a 10-year plan. No, I never had any plan. For some reason, many of the things that I've ended up in is things that I didn't plan. I just stumbled into those things. So the Lereko Investment came purely by chance again. Having spent those 8 years in government, in the beginning, completely burnt out, I decided, you know what, I need time out. I'm burnt out. I can't even breathe. Because when I started in government, I just started a family as well. And so I took time out. And as I was walking around the streets, I met Popo and Vali, who had just left government at the time, 2004. Oh, Comrade Lulu, we're starting Lireko, and I'm like, what is that?
Yes.
Business. I said, whoa, I'm not a business person. I'm a development person. So, no, Comrade Lulu, just come. What are you doing? No, I'm just taking a year out. I'm going to go back to academia. Okay, pop in, spend time with us in the meantime. And I'm still there.
Wow.
I was there for the meantime.
Yes.
And I hadn't realized that society or the universe or whatever it is had actually, whatever else I had been doing all of these other years had prepared me for yet a completely different opportunity. And that's how I ended in business. And we started Lireko Investment, and it's still there, and I'm still there. And
tell
having
us
a lot
more
of fun.
about what it does.
Lireko Investment is an investment holding company.
Yes.
And we really take minority stakes in blue chip companies.
Excellent.
And we try, our intention is to identify those businesses that are really core in the economy. So you will see the kinds of things that we've been in, logistics, and that would be True Imperial.
Yes.
You'll see SAPI involved in that. South Point, which is student accommodation.
Yes.
So you'll see we are now also in clean energy. So we kind of identify the areas that are really core to the economy, and then we engage in those companies, in those boards, try to influence issues around transformation. So for us, it's transformation in those companies and also in terms of what those companies are doing
in society.
So that's what we're doing in Lireko Investment.
I know that I might get into trouble, this thing of culture and age, but I have to ask this question about, you have this love that has endured beyond the harassment, exile, now married and have a family. What is this special about Ubudwetu that has made you to be still in love all of these years? I've seen when you go to your in-laws and you go there and you become a Magodi and all of that. What is it that makes him keep you smiling all these years?
It's because he doesn't crowd my space to be Lulu Gwagwa. It's as simple as all that. He is who he is,
yes,
and I am who I am, and we are in this journey together. He hasn't tried to erase me.
Yes.
And he is very confident and comfortable in his own skin. And which therefore allows me to get on with life. So I do all of these things that I do in life, and he does what he does, and we support each other in the things that we do, and I think that's quite important. And he knows what's important to me. I know what's important to him, and we support each other. And at the core of it also is respect.
Yes.
Just respect. I think the fact that he respects my family to the core. My mother died about 7 years ago. My mother knew if he coughs like a small cough, he's the first one to get to her before I even do.
Yes.
And my sisters, my youngest sister will say, I don't care what's going on in your relationship. Even if I'll continue with this while, So respecting my family is such an important thing. And I want to believe that I do the same with his family, because I know how important his family is. So I would say it is about comfort.
Yes.
You want a partner that's comfortable in their own skin, whose title is not my husband.
Yes.
His title is him.
Yes.
In his own right. And so, I think that's key. The fact that we do things, we found things that we are interested in similar things, struggle, society, making an impact, is just a cherry on top.
Yeah.
that we tend to do the same kind of things and we are concerned about the same things. Issues of values, also families that we come from are very similar in the sense of valuing family, valuing integrity. When I say I worry about the Sunday Times, it probably worries even more than I do, having worked. I mean, you know where he's been in life, but those things are important to him. I think that's what has supported our relationship.
You know, I speak to a lot of young couples who are professionals and they grapple with this thing of complementarity. They battle with this thing of giving each other space. They battle with this thing of supporting one another in their chosen paths. But what makes it worse as males is this thing of not loving somebody for who they are. We want to love them in our image, and not accepting that they've got dreams, they've got plans, they've got passions that may be different from ours. I mean, if you could speak to many young men, particularly black young men, about this notion of what is a partnership in a marriage, not an ownership. All right, you can do a BE deal. A marriage is not a BE deal. It's not an ownership piece.
You know, the aha moment came to me about what you are saying, Lincoln. Andy and I went to Camino Walk, and that was celebrating my 60th birthday. That was some years back, as 2019 to be exact. So we went on a Camino Walk in Spain. And so this is a 120-kilometer walk over 5 days. And so as we were walking, it was probably day 2, if not day 3. So you go up, you go down, you go up. Obviously, he's taller than me as a man, and so he walks faster than me. And so we would walk, and then before we know, he's like ahead. And also me, obviously, I'm taking photographs in between, and Yena is just focusing on the walk, and after taking several photographs, he's already there. And especially figure in Nyugayo, and I would say in vernacular, because now you are there and I'm still starting here at the bottom. And then he would slow down, and then we would walk. Before I know again, and then you know what? And then I watched him move, and I said, you know what? I'm trying to make this man walk my own Camino, but he's walking his own Camino. So by saying to him he should slow down, I'm saying he must walk my walk like this. I want to frustrate him because he can't walk. He's tall, he's a man. I'm short, I'm a woman. So my steps are, what's the right English word? They're not as wide as his. And therefore, you know what? Let me be happy that we are walking together. We are walking side by side. We've got the same destination. We know where we'll be sleeping because we made arrangements. Let him walk his Camino, and let me walk mine, and let me be content. And it's only after that I had a job. He would be walking, he would be stopping. I wouldn't be saying stop or whatever. If he stops, he stops. And then I would find he's already sitting in the cafe, the next one, ordering drinks, and I'm there I'm having drinks, and then off we go again. So I think marriage is that. We're walking side by side. Even if I loved him or he loved me to bits, there is no way he can walk my step, if you see what I mean. He can only physically walk his own step, but side by side. And I think that's what marriage is for me. Side by side, walk your own journey, walk my own journey. We are together in this journey, but I'm still walking at my own pace. If I'm the one who happens to be ahead, it's okay, young men. It's okay. We are in this journey together. If you happen to be ahead, it's okay. If you are struggling up and I'm not, it's okay. If I sprain an ankle, I will lean on you. You will rub my ankle. Maybe you will tie a bandage. and I will stand up. Maybe you will wait for me then, but we will walk together. You might advise and say, next time, Sisi, don't do this, because you might, It's advice. I'm not telling you should run or not run. I'm advising that maybe the reason why you fell, as I did fall the other day walking, it's because you weren't paying attention. I think for me, that's what a relationship is. That's what particularly a marriage, side by side, but walk your own journey.
Last two questions. The first one is parenting.
Sure.
There is no manual. There is no Google. And what we experienced may be different to what we're experiencing as parents, especially professional parents. What are some of the things that I think as parents we should be aware of this younger generation and what they are grappling with in their lives as we try and parent them to a better future? How do we tackle some of those?
I think parenting is one thing that has humbled me.
Yes.
I think a lot of us have been humbled.
It shows me flames.
Have been humbled by parenting, because it's probably the biggest leadership challenge ever. Because parenting, all these theories about leadership and everything, it can't be more real than parenting, because here you are, you've got different people.
Yes.
And at the core of us as parents, because we're trying to make it easy for ourselves, we're trying to make them all the same person. And that's problem number one.
They're very different.
Because they might have come through the same womb, the same, the sperm might have come through the same person, but these people are not the same. And I think that's the first thing. Can we see children as individuals?
Yes.
I think as parents, which is a very difficult thing.
Very.
Because when they are, you accept that they're individuals, then you're going to lead them differently.
Yes.
And which is what is difficult as well, because we want to lead them in the same way. And in the process of trying to lead them in the same way, we break these children, the essence, the flame that's inside.
And what makes each one unique.
And exactly, we break that down. So we break each one of them because we're trying to bring them to the common denominator that will be easy for us. At that point, we are not leaders, we are hustlers.
Yes.
Because we're trying to hustle, make it easy for ourselves, if you go to where we started. And I am seeing it, Lincoln, with these young women that I'm working with.
Yes.
And I've said to everybody I've talked to that the biggest lesson that I've learned over the last few years I've been running this program is that as parents, we've got no idea how we've broken our children.
Yeah.
We have, all of us with no exception, because we haven't paid attention to things that matter. We haven't paid attention to how much we project our own childhood traumas onto these children. So the fact that I wanted to be a tennis player and I never gotten there, I'm desperately trying to make my child now a tennis player, to live my dream through this child who has their own dreams, their own unique talents and gifts. And I think it's a very, and I'll say that, but at the same time, it's a very difficult thing, a very challenging thing to lead your two children. I know you've got two, a boy and a girl.
Three.
Like me, you've got three.
Yes.
You've got two girls and a boy. I've got a girl, a boy and a girl. And they ever so different.
Yes.
And it's only now that I'm realizing, damn, I've spent the last 25 years to be exact, trying to make them the same person, and they're not. And I'm waking up these last 5 years, having through this program, desperately trying to undo everything that and say, my role here is not a leader.
Yes.
Not to tell them what to do, is to advise where I can, is to create an environment that will bring the best out of them, so that when they go out in the world, they feel grounded. That I know when with it all said and done, I know where I can go and rest. Because there's a shade there that I can go through where I will not be judged. Nobody's going to be saying, why are you 98% and not 100? They're going to say, oh, you got 98. Let's see.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
what do you think?
And back to the leadership thing on parenting, it's because if you're a leader, you can't accept feedback. You can't lead.
Yeah.
So some of those conversations with our kids are brutal. They're brutal because they give you feedback, not what you intend.
Yes.
It's how it lands.
Yes.
They say, this is how you're making me feel. Then we say, no, that's not.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
This is how you're making me feel.
Yeah.
And so
and
my
don't
eldest
know
daughter was 33. We have these conversations.
Yes.
My daughter was 22,
Yeah.
and my son was close to 18. And each one of them is very different.
That's it.
And the way I relate to them is very different. But as you say, I'm learning as I go. Because there is no formula.
I think it's the feeling thing. Because of the environment that we grew up.
Yes.
There was nothing called feeling.
Yes.
In fact, if you even go to our vernacular, there's no word for feeling. So when they say, you make me feel, you know, so we don't even want to listen, you know. And so if you are a leader, as you say, feedback is key.
Absolutely.
And also listening. And listening, not just listening to words, as they say, third level listening, where you are listening to the person in totality, the tone of voice, the body language, what's going on. You're listening to what's not being said. And that's what a true leader does. I mean, all of those who've been in presence of Mandela, they will tell you about how when he's with you, it's almost like nothing else exists.
You're the only one.
You are the only one. It's because it mastered the skill of listening.
Yes.
Third level listening, which is deep listening. And I think as a leader, which is what we are as parents, if only we can just learn to listen, which we don't. And we miss what's going on with our children.
Lulu, I want us to conclude about our country. Do you have hope? Are you despondent? Are you completely worried? Are you... how are you feeling about the future of the country?
To say I'm not worried, I'm not concerned, it would be a lie.
Yeah.
I'm concerned, I'm worried.
Yeah.
But I think when I speak to young people, and I deal with a lot of young people, when I speak to young people, I have hope.
Yeah.
I really do. These kids are objective, which we are not. From all perspectives in our generation cannot. We are just incapable of seeing things objectively because we are just so invested in what happened pre-94 and the breaking up of, and I'm not even blaming us for that. We're steeped in that. So be it whatever political party, there's no objectivity. We're steeped in that. If you look at these young people, I mean, my own children, they will be challenging their dad and in the last election. So dad, who are you voting for? My vote is a secret. Of course, we know who you're going to vote for. So give me 3 reasons why you're voting for whoever you're voting for.
Yes.
And so that's objectivity. To say objective, when you look at how things are going on, have you analyzed what's going on? And therefore, your vote is based on the analysis of, we used to call them objective and subjective conditions. We've forgotten even about that ourselves. So these guys looked at the objective conditions and said, okay, this is what's going on. And so what do we do now? What does this country need right now? And I think when I listen to young people, be it in my village where I come from, because I go there often, be it the young women in traversing liminality, be it young people in the companies that I'm involved in, be it young people that I just chat to in the streets, and I look at them, and I look at the excitement, look at the startups.
Yes.
in the midst of all that's going on, the ability to think about things that we had never thought about. And so I really do have hope. And I just wish that before we leave, we haven't broken this country to the point where we will leave them, they will start from a minus.
Yes.
Because I think that's what's going on. But to say that this country is going to go to the dogs, this country is going nowhere. There's no dogs that it's going to go to. It is not where it should be. There's no question about it. And we have made millions of mistakes, and we're continuing to do that because we are hustling. Because we've decided not to lead, we've decided to hustle, because that's the only reason why we are where we are, it's because we're hustling. And so, but when I'm really, really hopeful for this country. I'm hopeful for this continent.
Yes.
I travel quite a lot. I was in Kenya, I was bowled over.
Yes.
I was in Luanda just 3 weeks ago. I was completely bowled over by what's going on in that country, the pace.
Yes.
And so when I go to the continent, despite the hustlers who call themselves leaders, who are at the helm of this continent, I think there's hope.
This continent works in spite of those who are meant to lead it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because daily people are making a difference.
You only have to go to Lagos and see how people are going on with it. Despite no electricity, no water, no this, no that, people are making a plan and things are happening. Same in this country. Despite all that's going on, people are making a plan and they are getting on. I think between young people and women,
you've got it.
We've got it. There's hope.
Oh, Sis Lulu, thank you so much. What an illuminating conversation. And I think that so many leaders who will listen to this podcast will gain so much and ask themselves the question, are they leading or are they hustling? And that's going to be the metric. And if you are leading, do more. If you're hustling, stop, because you're pretending. You're not leading anybody. And so I really, really thank you so much. Thank you for welcoming us into your home. We felt the warmth and really, really means a lot to me. So thank you, everybody. I hope that you've enjoyed this broadcast. Let's meet at the next podcast when we meet another trailblazer. People who are making a difference in day-to-day lives. If Sis Lulu can move from a village and be at the highest levels of corporate life, chairing some of the biggest boards in this country, running her own business, and put together so many programs for those less privileged, each one of us should ask ourselves, what more can we do? How can we be the midwives for Africa's rebirth? Thank you so much and have a good evening.